Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another discussion video, and the topic that I'm going to be discussing today is how to fix the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, before I go any further discussing the ways that I would fix the MCU, I would like to give a special shout out to Deshaun for requesting this video. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, I know a lot of people, their way of fixing it is to just start over, to just burn it all down and start from ground zero. And I can definitely see that approach. And I can see that potentially working. And I can see a lot of people's mindsets behind that approach. But I don't really think it's the best approach for the MCU right now. And the reason for that is despite diminishing returns in some capacity for the MCU, it still has a pretty large enough fan base that I don't really think it's the best idea to just start over. But I do think it is a good idea to start rebuilding, start retooling, instead of just sticking with the status quo. And before I discuss the different steps that I personally feel the MCU and Disney should take going forward to maintain their success and to survive, I want to make some things clear here. I'm not necessarily the best person to be discussing this particular topic because I haven't seen so many MCU films. There's been a lot of MCU films I have not even watched yet. I haven't seen Wakanda Forever. I haven't seen Quantumania. I haven't seen the two other Spider-Man films after Homecoming. I haven't actually even seen the Infinity War films. I haven't seen a lot. So I'm not really the person to be necessarily discussing in depth uh, why the current MCU has failed the way that it has, because I haven't seen a lot of those films. But I have seen enough of the reaction to them that I think I can definitely pin down what a lot of people are thinking. And I want to change that too. I do want to see more MCU films. In fact, that's something I want to do this year. I want to watch the entire MCU from beginning to end and review all of them. It's an undertaking, but it's something I've been wanting to do for years. And I haven't seen a lot of the original phases in forever. So it's definitely something that I would like to do in the future. But until that point, I'm just going off of audience reactions, fans' opinions, and box office numbers. Now, the first step that I think the MCU should do going forward to fix its current state is it needs to take the less is more approach. And thankfully that is something that Disney and the MCU is doing right now. So it's not even necessarily something that they have to do, they're already doing it. But it's definitely something that they need to continue to do. Even if this current lull that they're in, that's by design, winds up becoming profitable for them, they need to keep doing this. They don't need to look at this as an excuse or a reason for them to continue to overload the audiences with five MCU films for the year and like four other television shows. They don't really need to look at it from that viewpoint, if you ask me. If this works out, the less is more approach works out financially for them, they need to stick with it because this is what the future of the MCU is going to be. This is what the future of a lot of franchises is going to be. This is what the future of entertainment is going to be. Less people are going to theaters now than they have in the past. They're more selective, And so you can't really afford to have so many blockbusters that cost like hundreds of millions of dollars and then have over half of them bomb. So the better approach is to take the less is more approach. And that is what the MCU is doing right now. Disney has actually decided to take that approach this year. There's only 3 MCU films coming out this year, and there's not that many television shows. There's Daredevil, Born Again, and I think there might be one other one and maybe another one after that, but I haven't really kept up with it. But I know that they aren't really doing a ton of those projects either. Because, in all honesty, they were a big part of why Marvel fans got burned out on the MCU because they were just overdoing it. And when you overdo something for so long and you honestly run out of the best ingredients, like the best superheroes, the ones that the audiences love the most, like Captain America and Iron Man, and now we're saddled with Captain Marvel and Riri and Doctor Strange and who knows who else, like Shang-Chi. That's definitely not going to be that successful. That's not going to work that well, because those particular characters and those heroes, they don't have the same fan base. So there's not the same desire to see those particular films, or Loki the TV show, or the Vision and Scarlet Witch. It's just not really, or Agatha all along. And I know that there are fans for these kind of shows and fans for certain films that haven't done as well as others in the MCU, but that doesn't mean that they were that profitable for the studio. So when you get to the point where you're inundating the audience and the marketplace with too much of the same thing, there really isn't a reason for people to miss it anymore and savor it, or they're unable to savor it because there's just too much going on at once and it's become so homogenized. So the MCU is definitely making the right approach here by scaling things back. 3 films. Uh Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, First Steps. And a lot less when it comes to the TV shows. And that's something they should definitely do in the future and not make this a temporary thing. The second step that I think they need to take in order to fix the current MCU is to pick and produce projects that the audiences and the fans actually want to see. Instead of doing films or TV shows based solely upon getting brownie points for representation, or for whatever PC reason that the people in the boardrooms and at the studio can think of, actually produce and make projects and films that people want to see, like Deadpool and Wolverine. The reason why that was so massively successful, and the reason why it was more successful than a lot of other MCU films that had honestly came out beforehand, is because of the fact that people actually really wanted to see that. Sometimes it's as simple as that. So do more marketing, do more things to get the fans involved. Surveys, Q&As, get their mindset, get what they want, ask them what they want to see, and then provide it. Honestly, that's really what I think is a big part of how the MCU will continue to be successful, let alone profitable, going forward. You have to cater to your audience. It it's not rocket science. Now, another step that I think they should take is make more projects, make more films and TV shows or video games that aren't connected to the MCU. And they are starting to budge on that. The new Spider-Man show is not an MCU series. I think it looks like garbage, but I appreciate the fact that it's not an MCU show, and that is a step in the right direction. So, less projects that are connected to whatever phase of the MCU that you're planning on doing. So you can have these side projects that can be profitable and can build an audience, and they can add to your cash flow, and they're not solely tied into the success of phase 6, phase 7, or phase whatever of the MCU. And a fourth thing that I think they should definitely do going forward is if they are going to connect things together in a phase of the MCU going forward, they need to make it so it's not as I think obvious isn't the right word, but they need to make it so each consecutive film or show is not something that is necessary in order to have the audience understand what is going on, what's going to happen, why this character is showing up in this particular context or in this film. They need to make the whole approach of storytelling and really going about each phase less reliant upon the audience knowing these little things that then become big things later, because a lot of people aren't really going to pay attention to that and don't really give a shit. So you can still have it there for people who like that kind of stuff and find that to be involving and interesting and captivating for them, but it doesn't need to be a priority. See, that's the word I was looking for. It does not need to be a priority that each of these consecutive films or shows in each given phase have to have something that's going to connect to some kind of finale by the end of the phase. It's not something that needs to be a priority anymore. I honestly argue that it didn't even have to be a priority to begin with, because your average audience member who's not a diehard comic book fan is not going to care about any of that. So I definitely feel that that is something that they should ease back on, because it does limit these films and these phases, because oh, they can't do this or they have to do this, or this is something that has to be in there in order to tie into this, and just don't put yourself deliberately in a tighter box when you don't have to be in one. So I think that is definitely something the MCU should do going forward. And this is not necessarily maybe a popular thing, but they need to stop with the multiverse shit. I think it was really a mistake to continue on with that, especially after the actor who played Kang got into so much trouble that now Kang is being erased from the MCU. And he's supposed to be your big bad, your big villain for this multiverse thing. And so now you're continuing with it, but now it's with Doctor Doom, who's played by Tony Stark himself in uh, Downey, Downey Jr. And I don't really feel that the multiverse is something that has that long of a shelf life. So I think if they are going to continue on with this multiverse thing, end it with Secret Wars and don't stick with it, because I think it's something that is definitely going to start to get stale and start to get old, and audiences are going to tire of it, And if this is something you're just going to keep doing with each phase, I don't think people are going to be really big fans of that. And that's not just including casual audience members. I think there's going to be a lot of diehard Marvel fans who will get sick of it. So I think you definitely need to ease back on that and make that something that is just one big last hurrah for Secret Wars and be done with it. And maybe with the multiverse thing, you can bring in a different Captain America and a different Iron Man with different actors. That is something to think about as well. And I think that is definitely, in all honesty, a approach that the MCU should definitely consider. Because without Captain America and Iron Man, and by Captain America and Iron Man, I mean Steve Rogers. I mean Tony Stark. Not Riri Williams, not Falcon. That's not what I mean. Not US what the hell is his name? It's not US Marshal, but US agent. Not any of that stuff. So you definitely need to have those two involved in your new phase of the MCU after the multiverse ends. And it's a prime way to have different actors play these characters now because they're the Captain America and Iron Man from this other universe who are now in our universe. So I definitely feel that that is something that Marvel should consider going forward. And one more thing, I think the MCU should really put a focus on putting X-Men on the fast track. Stop delaying it so much. Get that first X-Men film out sooner rather than later. Because X-Men in the MCU is a big draw, is a big thing that people are anticipating. It's a big thing that people want to see. And it's something that you should not be dragging out as long as you are. Same thing goes for another Spider-Man film. I don't know why they're waiting as long as they have on that either. So that those two should be priorities. If we're talking about saving the MCU, we're talking about fixing it, if we're talking about it making it into something that is consistently profitable again, well, that's what it's going to take. And that ties into giving the audience what they want. They don't want an Ironheart movie or an Ironheart TV show. They really don't. They don't want another Captain Marvel. They don't want any of that. So what they would rather get, what they rather would want to see is another Spider-Man film or the first of many X-Men movies. And that's why I think the Fantastic Four film this year is probably going to be the biggest hit for Marvel because there actually is buzz around it. There's actually intrigue, and I think that one's going to be a little bit of a surprise hit. I think some people are underestimating the popularity of the Fantastic Four, and I think that that is a film that if it's done right, it's going to add a lot of added goodwill for the MCU going forward. And it's going to create a new franchise for the MCU that people are definitely going to keep an eye on and want to see more of. So I think that's definitely what the MCU should be focusing on. Less of trying to push these characters that people aren't really into and don't really like, and more pushing the new Fox properties and ones that used to be owned by Fox but haven't been in the MCU yet, and the ones that were popular in the past, like Spider-Man, Captain America, and Iron Man. So that's definitely what I think they should do going forward. And another thing, do more R-rated films. Don't make Deadpool and Wolverine the last one that you do. If you're gonna do Blade again, make it R-rated. Don't make it PG-13. Consider Old Man Blade, like a Blade 4 with Wesley Snipes. Consider another Punisher. Consider an R-rated Deadpool movie. I mean, you already have an R-rated Deadpool movie, but I meant to say an R-rated Daredevil movie. Consider an R-rated Daredevil film. That's a sequel or a tie-in to Born Again. Consider stuff like that. And for the TV shows, that's when you can experiment more with non-MCU projects. Do a Man-Thing show. Do stuff that's, a little bit more out of the box. And I think that's definitely something that can build an audience. So I think there's a lot of things that the MCU and Disney can do, and I think these are all reasonable things. These are all things that I think they can easily pull off, and they're not really that difficult and not that hard. And if they do all of these things, I definitely feel they will not only fix the current state of the MCU, but they'll solidify it for years to come. But anyway, that's my thoughts on fixing the MCU. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.